Yeah, I started out on a 4-track, and my partner Steve Marker, before we started Smart Studios, we had a 4-track in his basement, and we just bought all our gear at like thrift shops.
Yeah.
We'd say, oh, there's a couple Radio Shack mics for $10. We'd buy them, and usually they sounded like shit.
Yeah.
But it was always very DIY. I never went to a recording school. I never apprenticed through a proper studio. A lot of, that sort of used to be the old system. You would work your way up from the assistant to the T-boy to the tape engineer and second engineer and then first engineer. Maybe you became a producer. I just started doing it from day one, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I feel like I'm still learning in some ways, which is why I love coming to studios, and I love watching music documentaries, and I still read Tape Op and every other nerdy music magazine out there because, like I said, I think I'm still learning something every day.
Yep.
I know we just finished mixing the Garbage record, and the whole process, Billy Bush, the engineer, and I have been sort of thinking about how these songs are going to translate from the stereo mixes to the spatial mixes, and it's kind of exciting because I think when you do that, some of the production decisions you make in terms of arrangements, you're actually thinking in terms of how you want to put it into that environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask, when I go into another room, I do a lot of these tours, and I like to listen to the people's space, and even when you're just doing sessions, you got to kind of get familiar with the room. Do you have any like go-to records, or do you just kind of jump into the room and start going? What's your process?
Oh man, I know what you're saying exactly, especially if you're in a studio on day one and you're not sure what the monitors are like or what the room has been tuned like, what the bottom end is like. I usually, if it's a rock record, I'll put on something that I have worked on in the past, like Smashing Pumpkins, or it might be the Foo Fighters or Green Day, just because I know those records intimately, and then I can tell, oh, there's not enough bass in here, or there is too much bass if I'm standing in the back of the room. If it's a pop record or something more electronic, then I'll make a different choice. But I usually want to put something on that I'm very familiar with, because then I can make better judgments. And if I'm going somewhere and I don't know the sound of the room, a lot of the times I take one of my pairs of Barefoot MM27s. I had them in a row case. I started taking them on tour with me with the Foo Fighters back in the day. And because I trust those speakers.
Yeah.
And I'd rather just ship those and then put them up, because that's probably half the battle in terms of figuring out the control room.
Do you stream them? Do you still bring CDs around or anything like that?
Not really.
Yeah.
Probably should, because, in theory, a 44.1 16 CD is going to sound better than a 320 megabits streamer, JPEG or whatever. And the thing is, I have a tendency, like everybody, to listen to the streaming services because that's how music is being consumed.
Yep.
So even when we're mixing the latest Garbage record or anything I work on, I listen to it on my phone, and then I go in the car and stream it in my car.
Yep.
And I want to hear how all those conversion rates and the digital compression, how that is affecting the sound of the space and the drums and where the vocals sit, And I think it's important for producers and engineers to know how it's going to sound, how the consumer's going to hear it. And now everybody's listening with earbuds.
Yep.
And that sort of sometimes can make you change the mix process in terms of EQ and stereo placement and things like that. So
yeah, definitely. I love your story of how you got into recording and came up the traditional way of just figuring it out. What are some of the things that you've picked up about studio workflow and running sessions that have you've learned, like, okay, this is going to make the process much easier for the artist?
Well, I started out very DIY. I didn't go through a recording school. I didn't get to apprentice at a studio where you worked your way up through the food chain. And when we bought an 8-track and opened up Smart Studios, most of the bands we brought in didn't have a clue what they were doing either. And they said, "You're the producer, right?" I go, "Yeah." I wasn't even sure what a producer did at the time, other than to have an opinion and try to just keep it moving forward.
Yeah.
So I've learned to don't have to be too precious or purist about a studio. I'm totally, sometimes even now, seat in my pants, whatever we have will work. Is there a microphone on over there? I want to record this guitar right now. Just move it over by the amp. I don't want to take a half an hour and set up 3 microphones and balance them all out. It's like I just want to get the part recorded.
Yeah.
Especially since these days records can be, they can sound like a Steely Dan record, be incredibly beautiful and perfect sound, and they can be super lo-fi and grungy or dirty and distorted, and they can be both of those in the same song. And people who listen to music expect any kind of production these days, and there are no rules. So I try to just remind myself all the time, like, hey, we can just go on the fly and just wing it. You know, it's going to be fine. I used to spend a day on a drum sound, you know, on the snare drum sometimes. I don't like to do that anymore.
Yeah, no, of course,
I'll spend 10 minutes on a snare drum. That's about it. And then go, that's good enough. Let's go.
Yeah.
I think there's an aesthetic that people realize in the studio, and producers and engineers. Performance is still the king, you know. As much as I can obsess over the snare sound or a guitar tone or whatever, at the end of the day, people are listening to the feel of a song or the hook of a song or the groove or what the singer is trying to emote, and is so important. Performance is what makes a song.
Yeah. When you were coming up through Smart and learning on the go, what was the transition into doing more mixing for you?
Well, most of the bands didn't really have a clue what was going on, and we started out to 8-track and would just mix to stereo, and all those early records I had to do in 2 or 3 days. Like, we would track everything in a day, do all overdubs, vocals and lead guitar, percussion, whatever on day 2, and then mix everything on day 3. And I did like literally hundreds of records like that. It's just so fast.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have the opportunity to experiment a lot in the studio early on. I used to have, like when we would track, we had a board set up and the drummer would set up and play his drums for 5 minutes. It sounded like shit. I would just insert all the EQ. Sounds great. We're ready to go. And to a certain extent, I had a mix template.
Okay.
So once I got in the mix zone, I sort of knew how I wanted to set the board, what delays and reverbs I wanted to have, compression, any outboard EQ, whatever. And I would work a lot on the first song, and once I had that, I was able to move pretty quickly from that point on to do 12 songs in a day.
Yeah.
You know.
Smart.
Had to. I mean, it was Smart Studios. We didn't have any choice. We had to get it done in a day. The first record that I really had time to experiment was Gish with Smashing Pumpkins. I think we had 36 days to record and mix the record. And to me, that was like making a Steely Dan album, you know, because we could spend a day getting the drum sound. And we spent a lot of time in overdubs and getting Billy's vocals and everything to sound great. But then also the mixing process, I think there were maybe, 11 or 12 songs in the record. We probably mixed for about 8 or 9 days, you know. It was maybe we get 3 songs done in 2 days. But I appreciated the fact that Billy wanted to really get it right, and that was the first time I ever really was able to dive in to a mix, and I like that. You know, I like being able to finesse dynamics and you know, ear candy, what I call ear candy, little moments in songs where you hear these little things that maybe you don't hear the first time. As you hear on repeated listens, there's things in the song that start to become apparent, and it's fun to do that.
Hey, thanks for checking out this clip. If you're setting up your own studio and you have any questions about how to hook things up, what to plan for, what gear you are thinking about getting, how you want to go about it, you can schedule a call with me at andrewmastersmusic.com. It's a one-on-one, 1-hour consultation where you can ask me anything you want. The link is down in the description. Go schedule your call today. And if you're just chilling and you want to subscribe or watch another clip, click one of these 2 things.